4 forms of negative self-talk you're probably using. How often do you pay attention to the voices in your head? Throughout the day, we tend to talk to ourselves. Everything we do inspires some form of internal dialogue. The question is just how positive are the things we're saying? When we engage in negative self-talk, we make ourselves absolutely miserable through a constant stream of criticism and self-recrimination. As a result, we hold ourselves back from accomplishing our goals. If you don't think you're engaging in negative self-talk, consider some of these statements and see them for what they are. I'm too blank to get this done. We all have a pet word that fills in the blank. Stupid, lazy, out of shape, old, whatever. It doesn't matter the word we use, and the intent is always the same. If we can convince ourselves we're not able to do something because there's something inherently wrong with us, then in a sense, it's not really our fault when we fail. The problem is eventually we start to believe these words, redefining who we are. It's my fault. Shifting the blame over to ourselves can seem like a way to get out of conflict quickly. The problem is, we get so used to taking the blame that we start apologizing for things that never had anything to do with us in the first place. This constant stream of negativity and living your life as though everything is your fault will keep you from even trying to succeed. It's not like it was going to work. In contrast, when something does go wrong, making a statement of this sort absolves you of all responsibility. It sets you up for accepting failure without ever giving you the ability to learn from the mistake. Eventually, this also keeps you from trying again. After all, why bother? That's not what they meant. When we start analyzing what people say and assuming every compliment is some kind of put-down in disguise, we're telling ourselves the good things said about us can't ever be right. Worse, this has a way of making us feel as though there can't ever be good things about us. So, what do you do to turn the negative into a positive? You start by being aware of what you're actually saying and countering the negativity with a positive thought instead. Eventually, this will become a habit, and the negativity will disappear altogether. 4 signs you are your own worst enemy. Why is it you're not getting ahead? Are you having difficulty finding opportunities? Or could it be you're not taking the opportunities when they come to you? Crazy as it sounds, the most common reason people don't succeed is that they're engaging in self-defeating behaviors. If you're not performing at the level you think you ought to be, you might want to consider whether or not you've become your own worst enemy. How can you tell? Look for these 4 signs. You use the emergency exit. And do you tend to come close to completion of a project only to back out at the last minute? When you feel the need to bail, it's typically because you're afraid to take the last step. Either you're too worried it won't work out, or worse, you're worried that it will. It's not uncommon to back away from things that frighten us. This is why we tank a relationship the moment we start to feel close to the other person. It's also why we sabotage ourselves at work when we hear we're being considered for promotion. You're procrastinating. When you put things off, it typically means you're feeling unsure about what you're doing. If you feel like your skills are not up to the task, or you're not confident regarding the next step, it's natural to put things off, hoping that they'll seem more apparent later. The problem is the clarity rarely comes. In truth, we only wind up sinking ourselves when we should have been asking for help. You're burying yourself in something else entirely. Are you easily distracted? If you're worried about the outcome of one project, it's not uncommon to throw yourself into another. This helps you keep your mind off what worries you. It also keeps you from getting done what you need to. You're giving yourself the wrong pep talk. Instead of using some positive self-talk to get things done, are you by any chance using negative self-talk to keep you from trying? After all, it's very easy to convince ourselves that we're failures. Why do we do it? Because if we know it's not going to work out, we never have to try it in the first place. All of these behaviors can have a seriously detrimental effect on what we're doing. Indeed, we are experts at being their own worst enemies, especially when we're trying to accomplish something which involves any manner of risk, or the task is personally important to us. 5 self-sabotaging behaviors to watch for in your adolescent student. When our children are struggling in school, we tend to look for what's easy. We might have their eyesight checked, or we try to find out if they understand the work they're being given. What we don't always check for is whether or not our children might be self-sabotaging their school success. If you think this might be the case, here are some behaviors to watch for. Perfectionism. If your child seems to be spending more time getting ready to do work than actually doing the work, they might be over-planning. If everything has to be just so before they can even begin, it's very likely they might be a perfectionist, and typically this is a self-esteem problem. When your child doesn't feel as if they're good enough, they keep setting higher and higher goals and then try to force themselves to measure up. Procrastination. Some kids just seem to love to wait until the last minute. Typically, this comes about as a result of fear. They don't always feel like they know what the material or what they're doing, so they put it off. This way, when they fail, it doesn't seem like their fault. Negativity. To someone who indulges in negative self-talk, there's no point in trying because they've already failed before they've even begun. The child who's overly negative has already convinced themselves whatever they try, they can't succeed. Helping others too much. Sometimes the child never gets their work done because they're so busy helping other kids in their class. They'll go out of their way to provide homework answers, or even help them cheat, getting themselves in trouble time and again with the teacher. Typically, this is a sign they're trying to win approval from their peers, especially if they might be feeling they have something to prove. Defiance. No matter what you tell a defiant child, they'll do absolutely the opposite of everything you say. Typically, this kind of behavior is a sign something else is going on entirely. You might want to check and see if something else in their world might not be right. Anytime a child engages in his self-defeating behavior, it means there's something going on which needs to be worked on. These traits are common in children who are not confident, but working to help your child through these situations will help them find success still, even if they've had a bumpy start to the school year. 5 simple ways to stop being our own worst enemy around financial security. There's never enough money at the end of the month. We don't have financial security. What are we doing wrong? More often than not, we're acting as our own worst enemy when it comes to financial security. We're getting ourselves in over our heads, without giving ourselves a way out. Let's look at 5 simple ways to stop being your own worst enemy around financial security. You only pay the minimum. Minimum payments on credit cards or any kind of loan might seem like a blessing in disguise. When money is tight, it's nice to know you don't have to pay the full amount all at once at the end of the month. But when you add up interest rates, you might be startled to find paying the minimum doesn't begin to make any kind of dent in your debt. You don't have a budget. How much money do you get in a month? How much money do you need to spend a month? If you're not able to answer these questions, how do you know if you have extra money for the little things? This is an excellent way to get into trouble financially. Quick solution: create a budget and stick to it. No retirement plan. What do you plan to do as you get older? How are you going to live? If you have no plan for your retirement, things could get pretty grim. If you're not sure how to plan for the future, getting a financial advisor might be a great start. Become intentional about your retirement, especially if you have big ideas about your future. Not having savings. Is there ever any money left over at the end of the month? What do you do with it? The problem is, the majority of people use this as a plan to create a savings account. Unfortunately, good intentions don't always get us very far. Your savings account never grows much, so when emergencies do happen, the money simply isn't there. Using home equity to pay the bills. There's a lot of advertisements letting you know just how handy your home equity can be. You're told you can use it to help you get out of debt and pay your bills. But in the end, are you gaining anything at all? The only way to start being your own worst enemy around financial security is to start becoming intentional about your financial security. Money in the bank doesn't just happen. You have to put it there. The good news? If you start taking charge of your finances later on, they won't take charge of you. 5 steps to shift your limiting beliefs for good. How are you your own worst enemy? We limit ourselves so much. We live in our heads and come up with all these ways to keep us from getting anything accomplished, even though deep down we know we're good enough and how much we're fully capable of getting things done. The only way to get past these self-sabotaging behaviors is to take active, intentional steps to remedy your thinking. Let's look at 5 steps that will shift your limiting beliefs for good. Stop. Wait a minute, what were you thinking? If a thought feels off about something, it's time to stop and examine this idea much closer. Is this perhaps a self-limiting belief? Think about what you're saying. Where is the lie in this thought? You've already figured out there's something wrong with it, or you wouldn't be going through this process. This means something about it is not ringing true. When you understand where the lie is, it becomes easier to know how to counter it. Look for the proof. Is there any proof this self-limiting thought is true? Let's examine the part you feel is a lie. Here's where you need to take a step back from the situation, if you can, and look very impartially at what's going on. Is there any grain of truth in what you're thinking? Take control. If what you're thinking is a lie, it's relatively easy to counter the false aspects of the statement with the truth. But what if the thought was at least partially true? You start by reminding yourself this isn't always the case. For example, you might be thinking you're always late. Maybe you are, in fact, late sometimes. To perform this step, you would need to recall various instances when you were on time. By countering the lie, you're taking control of the situation and not allowing the limiting belief to have any sway over you. Get help. Sometimes it can be challenging to remove limiting beliefs by yourself. In these instances, it can be beneficial to talk to a friend or even a counselor to help you see the truth. There's nothing wrong with getting help, especially from someone who's in a position to be impartial. Self-limiting beliefs don't have to control your life. By examining your thoughts, especially those that seem to hold you back, you'll find it much easier to move forward toward your goals. Soon you will realize success. 5 tips for putting an end to creating more stress in your life. Just how much do you have going on right now? If you're like most people, your schedule is probably pretty full. Between work, family, and other obligations, there's always something to do. With busyness, though, comes stress. Even when you're doing things you enjoy, having a lot on your plate can create stressful situations. So how do you put an end to creating more stress in your life, but still get done the things you want to do most? Try these 5 tips. Stop being so goal-oriented. If you're rushing around trying to get everything done at once, micromanaging and insisting on being in charge, you're going to be stressed. It's easy sometimes to get so wrapped up in accomplishing things you forget to breathe. Anytime you're too goal-oriented, you need to ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. Is it possible you're setting some goals which are too lofty, or are involved things that you shouldn't be wasting your time on? Quit talking down to yourself. It's incredibly stressful when other people put you down. It's even worse when we do it to ourselves. When your internal dialogue is full of failure, negative comments, and reminders of past mistakes, it's tough to get things done or even to feel good about your efforts. Learn to better handle conflict. Few people enjoy confrontation. If you're not handling conflict well, you're going to be stressed out. The solution? Learn better communication skills. Skillfully verbalizing your point and managing difficult conversations is crucial to reducing stress. Stop expecting failure. This has been touched on before when discussing negative self-talk. Expecting failure runs deeper, though. This kind of reasoning can stop you from trying in the first place. Even if you do try, you're going to be so stressed out, you're likely to self-sabotage and wind up failing after all. Doing too much. Here's the heart of the matter. Most people tend to overcommit. When your schedule is booked solid, it's normal to feel stressed out. Here's where a reality check helps. Write out your schedule for the next week and ask yourself which of these items are truly expendable and which of these are truly necessary. It might be time to reassess your priorities. While there is no cure-all to getting rid of stress in your life altogether, by following these steps, you can reduce it. Remember, the key lies in being intentional and refusing to let stress take over your life. 5 types of toxic people who help us be our own worst enemy. Do you feel you're holding yourself back? Are you not achieving the success that you ought to have? If this is the case, you might want to consider one essential thing. You might have had help. In our lives, it's not uncommon to have toxic people who love nothing more than to help us be our own worst enemy. The sad thing is, more often than not, they masquerade as friends. Let's look at various types of toxic people and discover how they help us to be able to be our own worst enemy. The gossip. There's always someone in every circle of friends who knows everything about everyone. The scary part, they love sharing their knowledge, whether it's accurate or not. If you're holding back because you're worried about what other people will think, it's because you know people like this who will think plenty and share it with others. The pessimist. This individual can look at a situation and see the potential for disaster much quicker than they could ever see the potential for success. These are the people who seem to live for the drama that comes when everything starts going wrong, and will help convince you that anything you do will fail, as if you needed any help. The performer. This is not the person to go to anytime you're feeling unsure about a situation, or you could use some support. The performer hears your problem and uses it as a launch pad to talk about how they had it worse. Every conversation has to be about them. More often than not, they seem sympathetic. so you might mistake them for friends until you realize that they never had an equal interest in you. They'll leave you high and dry every time. The condescending. Whether someone's mansplaining or plain looking down their nose at your accomplishments, the condescending is an expert at helping you to feel small. If you're already struggling with negative self-talk, the condescending will validate the worst of what you have to say about yourself. The jealous. You work hard, you accomplish great things, but this individual will find a way to tear you down simply because they can't stand that you're getting ahead. If you're ever unsure about yourself, the jealous will exploit this, because the only way they feel like they're getting ahead is if you are not. The rule of thumb with any of these is to avoid toxic people at all costs. You don't need false friends in your life. Instead, find people who build you up and support you in what you do. Remember, real friends will help you reach the truest success. 5 ways we self-sabotage our finances. Why is it we never seem to have enough money? Sure, sometimes we spend too much, but doesn't everyone? Have you ever considered you might be self-sabotaging your finances? It seems a stupid question. Why would anyone do this? Consider these things. Are you trying too hard to keep up? The world can be a tempting place, especially when we see all the beautiful things our friends have. Is it any wonder we sometimes fall into the trap of keeping up with the Joneses? The problem is we can't always afford to live this way, especially when it leads to a lot of extended, drawn-out payment plans and debt. How are you using credit? When you got your first credit card, did you say you were going to use it only for emergencies? The problem is, at some point, you figured out just how easy it was to use the rest of the time. If you're using your credit card for small purchases throughout the month, you're putting yourself in debt unnecessarily. This is a bad habit to get into. When's the last time you comparison shopped? Are you looking for a big-ticket item? You might be saving time by buying the first thing you see, but you certainly aren't saving money. Remember, you can get a much better deal by shopping around. A little research can go a long way to help stay under budget. Are you living large? What do you do in your spare time? We love hobbies. The problem is, sometimes, hobbies can be costly, especially when you're engaging in pastimes which require a lot of equipment or travel. Can you really afford this kind of fun? Have you been driving yourself into debt? When's the last time you got a new car? If you've been continuously making car payments for years by trading in your old car and getting a new one as soon as the old car is even paid off, you're not doing yourself any favors. You would save a considerable amount of money by driving the old car for as long as you can once it's paid off. So long as the car is running well, there's no need to turn it in yet. Every one of these items is about the choices we make with our money. It's easy to overspend, especially when we have an image in our heads of the life we want to lead that might not be in keeping with our actual income. To keep from self-sabotaging your finances, it might be time for a reality check. Ask yourself what you can honestly afford in all these areas of your life, and it will help you get back on track. 6 common ways women self-sabotage themselves. Whether you want to believe it or not, the world today is not easy for women. Even in the workplace where women are supposed to be equal, they're not always treated as if they are. Why then do they waste their time in self-sabotage? Think about these ways in which you might be self-sabotaging yourself if you're a woman. Not dreaming big enough. The problem with feeling like we're not good enough is it establishes a false belief system. As a result, we start making our dreams too small. We think we shouldn't have big, lofty goals because we don't think we can reach them. This is not true. After all, how can you attain great heights if you never try? Emotional overwhelm. Anytime we let our emotions run away with us, we stop ourselves from making forward progress anywhere else. Worry, anxiety, and fear will trip us up every time. It's time we realize we're more competent and capable than we ever thought we were. Lack of clear vision. How well do we know ourselves? We might have a pretty good idea of our strengths, but how well do we know our weaknesses? It's hard to be honest with ourselves, especially when looking at our flaws. But when we're not able to face the facts, it's easy to get in over our heads. When this happens, we pull back and stop trying, guaranteeing failure. Playing it small. Let's face it, we've been taught not to show the world how great we are. We're taught it's not nice to boast or show off. As a result, sometimes we don't succeed, at least not as much as we could. We hold back because we worry about what other people will think. It's time to step up and show the world we're made to shine. Going it alone. When we start doubting ourselves, we start thinking it's better to not let anyone else see what we're doing in case we mess up. This means we do a lot of things alone. What we don't realize is how vital a healthy support system can be. By allowing people into your life, you'll get much further than if you kept on trying on your own. Making others feel small. Sometimes we become so worried about our success, we start feeling threatened by the success of others. When this happens, it's not uncommon to try to make the other person feel small. This seems especially true among women. We need to start realizing there's enough success to go around. The more we build each other up, the more we guarantee our successes. As women, these traits are especially true. We need to start holding ourselves to higher standards. When we do this, we help not just ourselves define success, but we help other women to get there too. Top 5 methods we use to sabotage self-care. How are you feeling right now? Are you happy with where you are physically and emotionally? Would you be considered healthy by your doctor? These are essential questions. The problem is, much as we have good intentions regarding our health, sometimes we sabotage our self-care. It's not as though we want to be unhealthy, but subconsciously there might just be something holding us back from being the healthiest and happiest versions of ourselves. What are the top methods we use to do this? We make excuses. There's always a reason for not getting something done. Especially true when it comes to taking care of ourselves. We say we don't have time to exercise, or we don't have money to eat right. We become so good at making excuses that we don't need to try at all. How to stop it? Like the shoe company says, just do it. We choose the wrong companions. Not everyone is on a journey to better health. Hanging around with people who are opposed to your goals is a sure way to keep from reaching them. What's worse is when your friends sabotage your attempts by putting down your efforts. At the worst levels, the people around us become so abusive, they hurt your health both physically and mentally. People like this need to be avoided at all costs. We worry what other people will think. Are you afraid of looking foolish? One of the most common reasons people avoid going to the gym is because they're afraid others will make fun of them. This is especially a problem in regards to mental health. In many religions and cultures, it's still considered shameful to seek out counseling or intervention for mental health issues. The only way past this? Focus on you and not what others think. We feel like we won't be good enough. Sometimes it's hard to get started because you feel like you're going to fail right away. You know you're going to go off the diet. You want to start an exercise plan, but you think you'll be clumsy. When your expectations are too high for yourself, it's very easy to defeat positive efforts towards self-care before you even begin. The cure is setting better, more realistic goals. We don't think we deserve it. Why should we get to spend time on ourselves? Too often we start thinking we're selfish if we spend time or money on ourselves. But since when is taking care of you a bad thing? In every one of these methods, the cure is relatively simple. You need to realize just how wonderful you are. You are worth the effort. End of story.